Our next question is from April.
Hi, Minimalists. I'm April from Ontario and a longstanding Patreon subscriber. And my question is about arguing and fighting within a marriage. It's recently come up within my group of friends, along with my husband, about whether arguing and fighting is normal or healthy to do within a marriage. And we came at it from the perspective that it isn't. And were immediately called out by everybody else who said it was normal. If you're not fighting or arguing, it's not healthy. And did have to take a step back. We've been married 9 years together, 19 years. And it's not that we never argue. We just rarely argue. And we're trying to explain how we problem solve it, or if we disagree, how we sort it out. But that was not the prevailing wisdom from everybody else. So my question is it healthy to constantly be arguing, or for that to be the main way that you resolve conflict within your marriage? Thank you.
TK, is it ever healthy to constantly fight in a relationship?
Well, that's a different question from is it healthy to argue?
Right, but she said both, right? And so argue is one of those words that can mean several different things to different people.
Sure.
I would argue that TK and I disagree pretty regularly. And you could even say that those disagreements are arguments in a maybe debate sense. But I don't think we've ever been into a fight. We've gotten into a fight over these things that we disagree about. And so is fighting ever healthy in a relationship? Let's start there.
Yeah, with questions like this, it's sort of like, I can make anything you say to me without any difficulty whatsoever, right or wrong, foolish or wise, just depending on what I take you to mean by the particular word that you use. If by arguing in a relationship, you mean having conversations where we put our difference of opinion on the table, we each give reasons for what we think, or we make space for criticizing what the other thinks, even if that feels uncomfortable. Not only can that be a healthy thing, but every relationship is going to have some of that. But many times when people use the word argue, there's another layer that they're adding to it. Something that feels like a battle, something that feels like a power struggle, something that's characterized by a whole lot of anger, tension, and resentment, a shouting match, yelling, things along those lines. And I think just look around the world that we live in, look at how people have discussions on social media. The ability to argue or have discussions about differences without losing our composure and making it personal is very rare. And so it sounds to me like when you describe what you do with your husband, that you made it clear that you have disagreements and that you need to problem solve and that you need to discuss that. And I think that is all the value you will ever need out of the word argument. It seems that your friends might have reacted that way for one of two reasons. One, you might have made them feel insecure by describing a process of problem solving that they wish they had, or that sounds so amazing to them, or maybe they fear that you judge them for not having that manner of peaceful problem solving. Another, it just could be a language disconnect where they're using argue in a different sort of way. And so when they heard you say, I don't think you need to argue in a relationship, they're like, that can't be realistic. We're all going to have some disagreements. But I think if you and your husband are honest about the fact that you have differences of opinion and you have a great problem-solving method, there's no need to yell about it or have 4-hour conversations if you can get through it.
Isaac, what's your philosophy on arguing in relationships?
I think this question kind of comes to an ordering of values, right? So you have lots of different values and they have their proper place, and there's kind of a rank order of which ones are more important. Having unresolved problems is a big deal. You don't want to have unresolved disputes and things that you are holding in between you and your spouse that you are not communicating.
And why is that a problem?
You will begin to tear yourself apart from the inside. You will live full of tension all the time. If you have things in there where you have some irritation with them or some disagreement that is not coming out to the surface, it's not being exposed to the light. It will grow like bacteria inside of you. So getting that out, that ranks higher than how you get it out, right? That's the higher value. If I were to say, to use this argument, oh, you need to be arguing with your spouse. If I were to say, TK, do you and Michelle communicate with nonverbal hand gestures much. You need to be doing that all the time. You have to be using nonverbal hand gestures. That's very important. You'd be like, well, that seems kind of stupid. Or, Josh, you and your wife, you need to be communicating in writing a lot. That's really important. You'd be like, is it? Those are different modes of communication. Arguing is a mode of communication.
Mm-hmm.
Often it's a mode that comes when we lack the maturity to control our emotions, but sometimes it's the only mode available to us.
Yes.
So having the highest value be, we got to get rid of these, in communicating with your spouse, you got to get rid of these unspoken tensions or disagreements. That comes first. If you can do that without arguing, great. If it doesn't require arguing or fighting, great. That's not a necessity. But if in order to get those out, it's going to require fighting and arguing and you communicating in a way that you kind of wish you didn't, and it's kind of immature and you're getting a little emotional, that's okay too. Don't wait and say, I won't have this conversation until I know I'm going to be able to have it in a mature way without arguing. That's what I think will cause problems. And I think that's probably what your friends are getting at, is like, if you're saying, well, not wanting to argue is the higher value, so I will not argue even if it means I have unresolved things. That's where you don't want to be. I think it's about kind of getting those rank ordered. As you grow and mature, like my wife and I, we argue, we bicker, we have little fights and stuff. But as you grow and mature, your ability to communicate without having it be pregnant with emotion and turn into an argument gets better. But you can't wait until then to get those things off your chest, I think.
You know, the funny thing about my personal experience is that when I argue within the context of relationship and solving problems at home, I always lose. Even when I win, I doubly lose. And then if I lose, I also lose. And I find that there's always that need for creativity to do exactly what you said. How can we get to the bottom of this in a way that isn't about making points?
Do you ever think maybe you're just a loser?
That's also on the table, I think.
Well, I would disagree with that.
Here's how I think about arguments or fighting in particular. I've had one fight with my wife ever in over a decade, and but we've disagreed all the time. And the fight was certainly my fault, and it was a product of, I guess, misaligned expectations. I think all arguments are a product of misaligned expectations. So that is also not a good or a bad thing. It's just, you expect X, I expect Y, and that is why we're disagreeing about it. And that disagreeing turns into the tension that Isaac talked about. And over time, that tension can boil into resentment. And resentment is a dangerous place to be in a relationship because it leads to contempt. And if eventually you get to a place of contempt, that is a difficult place to get out of in a relationship. Holding someone else in contempt means essentially I look down on you. I don't respect you anymore. I am disgusted by you. And that level of disgust, especially about the person, maybe not the thing, because we can have a level of disgust like, ew, you like oysters? That's one type of disgust, but I don't have any resentment or contempt about that. I just don't enjoy eating oysters, right? But as soon as I need to be right about that, as soon as I need to say, well, you shouldn't like oysters either, Isaac. They're gross. They're disgusting. How dare you? You're actually a bad person for enjoying oysters. Even if I could somehow be as I don't know, logically consistent as TK Coleman and argue as the 7 reasons as to why you shouldn't eat oysters, I'm also going to lose at the end of that conversation because you're still going to enjoy oysters, and now I've added some tension to the relationship.
Key and Peele time. There's one of my favorite skits is the two guys are sitting there talking with each other and their wives are in the background and they're complaining about their wives together. And he's like, yeah, man. So she get up in my face and I had to let her know. I said, and then she calls his name and he goes, yes, baby. Yes, honey. Oh, sure thing, baby. I'll be right there. I'll handle that in just a moment. Thank you. And he goes back. He's like, yeah, man, I had to let her know. I think one of the lessons you could derive from that skit is that never make anything your brand when it comes to how you communicate with your spouse. Don't make it your brand to be the kind of guy who, I argue with my wife. I argue with my husband. And don't make it your brand to say, I never argue. We always solve our problems in a different way. Because then you're clinging to something that puts you in a position where if you ever have to improvise, you lose. You never want to put yourself in a situation where if you get into an argument, you have to say, I guess I got to change my philosophy. I apologize, guys. I had my first argument in 20 years and I guess I have to really rethink some things. No, you just had an argument. And you never want to be the type of person who's like, well, it's not a real relationship if we're not fighting, because then you might just go looking for something. It's not a brand. It's doing what's best in the moment for your life.
The thing that helps me not turn the argument, escalate the argument into a fight is the art of the pause. Now, I pause all the time before eating something I don't want to eat. The question I'll often ask myself is, will I be really happy that I ate this next Wednesday? And if it's like these nachos that look really great, and it's got all this cheese on it, I know that I'm not going to care next Wednesday. Oh, I'm really happy that I overindulged on this particular dish. I think the same thing can be true with a fight. Am I going to be really happy that I said this to Isaac or to my wife or TK, Professor Sean or Jordan or Savvy D? Am I going to be happy that I said this next Wednesday? And if the answer is no, then why say it? Because there's a better version of me who's going to look back and say, oh, man, I could have done that differently.
Thanks for watching this highlight. If you'd like to check out another one, you can watch this clip here. Or if you'd like to watch the full episode for this highlight clip, you can check out this one here. Or you can dive into the full private podcast by subscribing via the Patreon link in the description for this video. Your Patreon support is what helps keep this podcast 100% advertisement free.